I'm upset for the fact that I don't really like you.
F*** off, you little...
Oh,
You
okay.
f*** off.
Okay.
I just assumed you liked me because I thought we were good friends. So if you don't like me, fair enough. F*** you.
Fine.
These men are professional wrestlers, but this argument is no act.
And I don't have to like you to be your business friend.
I thought we were best friends.
Well,
In fact, it's the end of a friendship. So what brought on this end? 5 years of chasing a dream. In professional wrestling, that dream is always the pursuit of the spotlight. This is the story of a group of wrestlers, a 6-city tour, and the unavoidable clash of egos. My name is Greg Hemmings. I'm the producer of this television series. I booked a 6-city wrestling tour from Atlantic, Canada to Ontario to document the lives of a group of indie pro wrestlers and to help elevate them back into the spotlight. A spotlight that burned out over 2 years ago when our first television series for another network wasn't renewed for a second season. This left 2 of the wrestlers depressed and uninspired to continue wrestling. Neither one of them had any intentions on being part of this tour. The biggest problem is that one of those wrestlers was Rick Doyle, who is one of my partners of this series, the wrestling tour, and a crucial component to this project. Wrestler Peter Smith, my other partner, was picking up the slack, trying to make the tour work as part of a tag team, the Cardinal Sinners.
Tonight we're working in a town called Riverview, New Brunswick for a promotion called IHW. It's a month. They do a monthly show. And they've built quite a following. They're doing really well compared to most independent promotions. They're running more shows than most independent promotions in this area.
Basically what we did is started promoting shows, and eventually we all got better. We got a whole bunch of other contacts for other leagues and stuff. Pete hooked me up with a bunch of shows through the years also, right? And I think finally they could see through us and like finally gave us a chance at one point, you know.
Most smaller indie promotions only exist because there's a wrestler that can't get booked anywhere, so he ends up buying a ring and setting up little small shows and making a fool of himself and everyone else on the roster. But in the case of IHW, I'm impressed with the product. I think they've got a good little core, they all work hard, and the production value is good. They take it seriously, and I think that particular group is doing nothing but good things for pro wrestling in the Maritimes.
My role is really simple. Me and Titus own a ring that we bought just to really practice in. And then we were approached by Hub City Production. They wanted to start promoting. They basically said, can we use our ring? We'll book you. So as long as our ring's being used, my spot here is guaranteed in that sense. Basically, the ring's in our backyard. We all meet at our house at 1:30, get all the boards, the beams, and the mats on the truck. We drive here to Riverview, unload it, set it up, and at the end of the night, around 10:30, we'll do the exact opposite.
Being a young guy in this business, there's not a whole lot of glamour and glitz to it. These guys, you know, work for nothing. They got to set up and tear down the ring, set up chairs and stuff like that. I'm very happy that I'm past that point in my career.
Mike Hughes and Peter Smith have been working internationally together for years as the Cardinal Sinners. After wrestling in countries like Puerto Rico, Japan, Korea, and all throughout Europe, they were getting worn out of traveling the globe, and both had a desire to start wrestling closer to home.
My goals in wrestling have changed over the last year, so I've ended up getting a full-time job back home on PEI. So it's great that IHW has these local shows that are good quality shows that I still get to go out and wrestle on. To have this opportunity to wrestle this close to home and still get to work a full-time job, it's a great opportunity for me. Yeah, this is what I do all day. I stab people for a living. Just either stabbing them with needles to give them something or stabbing them with needles to take something out. You You know, on TV, you get into your character and you do what it takes to either to entertain the fans. Here, this is just Mike Hughes from PEI. It's not Cowboy Mike Hughes. There's quite a noticeable difference. Everybody doesn't always make $1 million in wrestling, so you got to have plan B. You know, you hear all the stories of heartbreak and drug abuse and suicide that comes in the wrestling business. And it's because people can't go back to a normal way of living and can't go back to a normal society. You know, for me, living in PEI is a great thing for me, especially in wrestling, because a lot of people know you in PEI. So I get a lot of support in my home community of Prince Edward Island. To be a pro wrestler, I believe that you have to have a certain look. And in order to do that, you know, I have to stay in shape. Now that I'm all loaded up here, what do you say we go over and get an arm workout? I'm getting an arm workout right now, just holding all this stuff. I really like being home now and getting to sleep in my own bed and get some good training and good nutritional eating and stuff like that, where I can really stay in good shape. But the problem is, no matter how good a shape and how hard I train, the effects of wrestling are really having an effect on me.
It's a popular misconception that wrestling is fake, but there's nothing fake about a 250-pound man being thrown down onto steel and wood for years on end. The continued abuse of Mike's body that will ensue during the following shows of this tour doesn't seem to faze him at all. When a wrestler lusts for the spotlight, nothing will get in his way.
I feel like I'm 2,000 years old. I got arthritis in my knees, my ankles, my neck, everything but this shoulder. That's just the easiest way for me to do it. Everything hurts but this. I know there's a good chance of me getting dropped on my head out there. I've already had my C6 and C7 fragments removed. Doesn't really make sense, does it?
I've recently turned 41 years old, and you know, sometimes I start to think maybe I can't wrestle much longer, maybe I shouldn't be wrestling now. But then I look at Robbie Ellis, who I've known for years. He's 65 years old. He loves it, and he continues to do it. You know, the fact of the matter is the fans love him.
My name is Robbie Ellis. I am the Sports Illustrated legend, Wonder Boy.
In wrestling, there are no limits, and that includes age. The Cardinal Sinners Riverview show proves that just because a wrestler grows old doesn't necessarily mean that they grow up. A wrestler's lust for the spotlight will stay with him until the grave, literally. Case in point, 65-year-old wrestler Robbie Ellis.
I'm 65, I've been doing it for 40 years.
Sports Illustrated did an article in 1985. They did stories on people that were in the pinnacle of their sport and people that were at the bottom of their sport. They picked him as the guy at the bottom of the sport. So they did an international article, Sports Illustrated, and it was partly on him.
But they found out that my wife and I run an art gallery, and they thought that was pretty cool that he leads a double life. An art dealer and a professional wrestler. He's either gay or he's crazy. Well, I'm not gay, so maybe I'm crazy.
He was smart, and he's a good businessman. He was smart enough to take that publicity and roll it into something.
And when I'm here wrestling for like IHW, which is one of the better indies, if not the best, I've left my house, I've walked out the door, and I'm Robbie Ellis, not Rob Elowich. Now, Rob Elowich is not an uninteresting guy, but he's nowhere near as interesting as Robbie Ellis.
Went really good, you know what? That was my first time wrestling him, but it went over great. They hated me, they loved him. Couldn't ask for anything better. Robbie, thank you. Fabulous! You're amazing! That jump to the outside was awesome. You got the and the catch was good? Perfect. This guy didn't even break a sweat. He's bone dry.
Oh, yeah, right.
It's because he's dry because he's been dead for 2 weeks. Robbie,
Yeah.
down here, that was a great match, man. When are you guys on? Next?
Even if I thought I would make millions of dollars wrestling till I'm 65, I don't think I would at this stage of the game because, I don't want to be 65 years old and crippled up, which isn't the case with Robbie, but it might be the case with me.
You saw the match tonight. There was nothing that I did. I certainly did as much as anybody else did. And that's because you put out when you're working for people that you love and respect and who treat you the same way. Because believe me, in this sometimes sleazy business, you're not always treated with the same, respect or whatever it is. Here, always. And so I would come whenever I possibly can.
Yeah, it's just this business. It grabs a hold of you, and sometimes you can't let go. I love this business. Everything about this business, the camaraderie with the boys, the crowd's reaction, whether they're booing me or whether they're cheering me, whatever the case may be.
These are the people I'd almost rather be with than anybody in the world. They're creative, they're fun, they're loving, they're good people. They're not all like that all over the world, but wrestlers generally are really good people. Up here, they're the best.
That 20 minutes between the ropes, it's one of those highs you really can't describe in life. You have to really get in there and do it to really know what I'm talking about when I say that. It just keeps you coming back.
The addiction of professional wrestling is hard to explain to people, but one of the main things is the feeling you get when you can walk into the ring with somebody and it gels and you have a good match. Everything just went well. It's like the kind of buzz during the match that you get from that. You can't explain it to people, so they'll never understand.
In typical Cardinal Sinners fashion, Cowboy Mike Hughes and Brody Steele cheated to win the match.
We don't lose!
They were feeling good about wrestling with the young IHW guys.
So much smoother than the other times we worked. You're really light now. It's just like a horse, it just steer you and you're there.
At the same time, Rick Doyle continued to send me, the producer of the show, a steady stream of text messages, emails, and phone calls about his financial reasons for not wanting to be on the tour with us. Peter was so pumped about his match that at that point, he didn't let it bother him. But after the adrenaline wore off, he realized that I wasn't exactly feeling as optimistic as he was.
The Riverview show, I thought, was a huge success. It was a fairly decent-sized crowd for a small venue. The crowd loved it. Everyone enjoyed themselves. We enjoyed ourselves as performers. But once again, no Rick Doyle. We're all a little bothered when Rick's not at a show and calls repeatedly, but nobody's bothered as much as Greg. And I've never seen anything bother Greg, but I think Greg was at the end of his rope on this one.
We've been trying so hard for the last 2 years to get this show on the go. The partners in this organization are myself, Peter, and Rick. And as you can see, Rick hasn't been here for the last 2 shows, and I think it's probably because he needs to make money shoveling ditches, as he's doing. And in my pocket here, I've got my BlackBerry filled with text messages from Rick demanding that he gets paid all the money that that is due to him up front. And we don't have all that money. And it's like, he's talking about getting his lawyers involved and accountants and all this. And so I'm thinking about just shutting her down and not going to Ottawa. They can go to Ottawa themselves if they want. Cardinal Sinners, Peter Smith and Mike Hughes, just finished the 3rd show of a 6-day wrestling tour. It was a huge success, but we still had a problem. Rick Doyle, our business partner and wrestling star, had missed the first 3 shows and hadn't committed to the last 3, which would take place in Ottawa in the next few days. Rick was also harassing me, the producer of the show, with threatening emails and text messages. Pete was genuinely confused at Rick's behavior.
I want Rick to be part of this. Rick and I are the ones who started this, in December of 2005. And being at tapings without him is weird, and I wish he was here. He doesn't feel that we're being compensated financially as well as maybe we should. But we've explained to him many times, me and the other owner, Greg, that a budget is what it is. Cameramen work for a set wage. There's nothing we can do about that. And I think he's just a stressaholic. I think if we were getting $1 million for this, he'd still think that he should be getting $2 million.
To put it simply, I felt that Rick was becoming toxic. I wasn't too keen on continuing to invest my time and energy into helping these guys achieve their egocentric goals of the spotlight if one of my partners didn't even trust me to do my job managing the budget. After the first 3 Atlantic Canadian shows on the tour, Peter and I both agreed that we needed to add more wrestlers to join the Cardinal Sinners.
Cardinal Sinners in the house, baby!
We had a few days off before we headed to Ottawa for the remaining 3 shows of the tour. So we thought we should try to convince another Canadian indie wrestler, Gary Gallant, to come out of his hiatus and join us on the road. Gary, or Wildman Gary Williams, gave up wrestling altogether over a year ago, after our first television series didn't give him the professional recognition that he craved. Peter was sure that if Gary signed on, then maybe Rick would wake up and seize the opportunity as well.
I had driven to Halifax today. It's my only opportunity to come down and talk to Gary Williams, or Gary Gallant. These shows in Ottawa could be a big opportunity for us.
Gary is a legend, especially in the East Coast wrestling scene. His passion for the business led him to run a successful wrestling school that has trained most of the region's best talent. Without Gary, the East Coast wrestling scene would not be where it is today.
I want to bring up as many as I can guys that I think are good and will help the product. And the best of the best around here is Gary Williams. So I'm going to go try to talk him into coming to Ottawa. I'm not sure if he's washed his hands of wrestling or what the deal is. I certainly hope not.
So Pete calls me out of the blue, tells me that he's in town, and apparently he's got a proposition for me.
I went in and I had lunch with him and a beer and tried to talk him into coming. He hadn't wrestled in about 1.5 years, and quite frankly, I didn't recognize him when I walked in. I thought it was the A&W Root Bear.
The best of the best out here in the Maritimes is you, as far as I'm concerned. So I just want to know if it's something you might be interested in going. It's only 3 shows. We'd be gone in about 6 days. I'd love to have you part of it because I think having you as part of the product will give us a lot better chance of putting money in all of our pockets.
Man, I haven't even been in the ring like over a year. Last time I wrestled was September last year, 14 months ago. Man, I don't know.
So I was a little hesitant about taking on this tour. I had taken a year off of wrestling just to, gather my thoughts and stuff. But I've had my hopes and dreams shattered so many times in this business that I just don't know if I'm ready. So I decided to give Rick a call because he and I are both in limbo about going on this tour.
Rick, what's going on? Just wondering, what's the deal? Are you doing the Ottawa thing or what? Well, just talking to Pete and stuff, so, I was just kind of trying to base my decision around who the hell's coming and stuff, right? So.
Gary was hoping to hear that Rick would be joining the Cardinal Sinners on the remaining 3 shows of the tour to the Ottawa Valley. But at the same time, he had to consider his comfortable job at a security company and the possible consequences of taking a week off just to join the boys.
Gary's had a lot of ups and downs with wrestling. He started off like a house on fire, and he did well for years. He kept busy, and then he fell away from it. And when we shot our season 1 of this project, he got the fire back in him. Gary was so emotional about wrestling in season 1 that he actually broke into tears, and he said, okay, I'm gonna give it everything.
I should have fucking brought it 110%, but I didn't. I just fucking did it. It's my own fault.
That little episode that I had, I guess if you want to call it, that was just everything rushing back to me kind of thing. And You know, I was just overwhelmed with different kinds of emotion. I was happy, I was sad, I was excited, it just all hit me at once.
And then he's just turned into a lazy guy that doesn't care anymore. You know, he's gained all his weight back, and, you know, he didn't wrestle for a year and a half after that emotional breakdown.
Gary finally decided to take a week off work and join the tour. It was time for him to get back into the ring, this time without getting emotionally attached and managing his expectations in a realistic way.
I don't think it's gonna be that kind of emotional roller coaster this time around. It's just me going out, having fun, doing what I do, doing what I love to do. I guess this is my way to reconnect with wrestling to a certain level. You know, get that adrenaline rush that you get by wrestling and stuff. I just need to feel that again.
So as we approached our departure date for Ottawa, I was concerned that Rick still wasn't committed to go. And to make matters worse, he had his accountant involved and his lawyer involved, and he started to get it into his head that Greg was trying to screw him on the project financially. Rick's behavior at the time had the potential to put the whole project in jeopardy.
Rick was a threat only because he's a legal part owner of the series. He was still bitter that our first wrestling show did not get renewed, a television series that he thought was going to make him rich. Rick's decision to join us or stay home could make or break this whole project.
Wow, you know, I'm just getting to the point that I'm putting this stuff behind me now. Like, I'm just getting to the point that I can get up and try to go to work and try to struggle through this every day and be cool with it, be happy with it, not want anything more than what I'm going to get. And now this is all coming back. Like, this is coming back, and I don't want it to get my hopes up again. Just getting over that fantasy of chasing that pot of gold for the big fortune. But I've got one kick at the can to go to Ottawa, and I've never been to Ottawa. I probably never in my life will ever get a chance to go to Ottawa. And then the realistic side of me says, are you nuts? Like, why? Like, why would you take time off your job, risk everything with your job to do this again? You get kicked in the nuts once. Like, why? I don't know.